Hello and welcome to another live ABRSM and Trinity Aural training stream for you to participate in and hopefully improve your oral tests. So we have already 4 people who have joined us who have been waiting patiently, so good to welcome you all here. And if you are joining slightly into the video, don't go back to the beginning because you won't be able to participate in the questions that we are asking the different for the different grades. So what we normally do with these particular live streams is to use one piece of music, which is the style of a Trinity exam, but use like ABRSM and Trinity type questions so that we can just draw lots of things out of one piece of music. So first of all, I'm going to play you a little piece of music that is open to all grades. So if you're doing grade 1 or you're doing grade 8, it doesn't really matter. And the question that I'm going to ask you is actually a grade 8 question, but it can be used for any grade. Now, the particular question is comment on any notable features within this piece of music. Now that could be something very simple, like in grade 1 you might have dynamics and articulation. In grade 2 you might want to talk about the tempo of the piece, whether it slows down anywhere. In grade 3, the tonality of the piece, and so on, going through character and style and period and structure and texture as you go up the grades. But just listen to this piece, and whatever grade you are on, just in the comments in the chat session we have here, I'm just keeping an eye on the chat session, just put down any notable features that you notice, okay? So here is the piece that we are going to use today. Okay, now what I'd like you to do now is participate in the chat of this live stream and tell me any notable features that you hear, okay? Now we have a few little answers already. So Classics 1, 2, 3, 4 saying sounds 20th century lullaby music, classical style. Okay, so are you going to opt for the 20th century or the classical period? Okay, and Magdalena Kurowska, I think that was right, Kurowska, was saying in 3/4 time. Lucy Wells, it's major homophonic, legato, mostly quiet and classical. Major key and legato, so we're getting lots and lots of different answers here. Okay, now, if you're doing grade 1, you will be talking about the dynamics and the articulations. So some people have mentioned that it was legato, and that would be correct. Also the dynamics, I think someone mentioned, just reading through again. Mostly quiet. Yes, it was mostly quiet. There were some little changes in dynamics here and there. Okay, now let's talk about the time signature. Someone said it was in 3/4 time, and I can understand why you said that. But does anyone have, you're giving very good answers, and this is perfect for a grade 8 style question. Okay, but does anyone have any possible other alternatives for 3/4 time? See if you can work out how many beats are in a bar. Sorry. Okay, now we're getting some other answers here. So Magdalena is going for 6/8 time. So is Nope Yup and Lucy Wells, and Classics 1, 2, 3, 4, 6/8 time. Yeah. So someone just said 6/9 at the end. We'll ignore that answer. But 6/8 time would actually be correct. Now there is a slight difference between 3/4 time and 6/8 time, because at the beginning you might have been thinking 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and that would be in 3 time, okay? But it wasn't played exactly like that, because in 3/4 time, the 4th beat that you come to would have the same weight as the 1st beat, like this. So every 3, there's a 1, and that 1 would have the same weight. Whereas in 6/8 time, the first group of 3 starts with a stronger first beat than the second group of 3. See if you can hear that the second half of the bar is slightly lighter than the first half. Can you hear the difference between 3/4 and 6/8? However, if you are in grades 1, 2, 3, the earlier grades, you don't even have to worry about that. You just have to say 2 beats in a bar or 3 beats in a bar if you're in grades 1 and 2. Okay. But then again, I suppose if you're in grades 1 and 2, you might say it's in 3, and actually there are only 2 beats in a bar in grades in 6/8 time. Now, another quick way of working it out is if you are clapping the beats yourself and it starts to get very fast, those are probably not the beats. They are probably the quavers within a beat. So in 6/8 time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you're clapping that speed, yeah, that would be probably too fast to be the actual beats. Those are just the subdivisions of the beat. Whereas the beat be 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 and 2. So that's how to distinguish 3/4 and 6/8. Now let's go on to tempo. No one I don't think has mentioned tempo changes as yet. Okay, one of the questions in grade 2 oral for ABRSM is, were there any changes in tempo? Now, someone's gone for an andante. I don't think the image is clear enough for you to actually read the music, apart from which it seems to be reversed somehow, the camera. So you'd be reading it backwards anyway. But anyway, okay, now Classics 1, 2, 3, 4 is saying it's slowed down in the middle. Yes. See if you can hear in this particular part. A slowing down in the middle. Okay, so that is correct answer there. Classics 1, 2, 3, 4. Well done. Now let's talk about the tonality. I think someone above actually already mentioned it. I was just quickly reading through all your answers that you gave above, and I'm pretty sure someone has mentioned, yes, Nope Yup gave us a little answer there, and also Lucy Wells had the correct answer. You could all scroll up if you wanted, or just answer again. Yes, Magdalena Korowska saying it's a major key. Right. So the tonality in this piece pretty much stays in a major key all the way through. In an ABRSM or also in Trinity exams, you might get a change of tonality, in which case you'd have to identify whether it started and finished in the same tonality, major or minor. Okay. Right, now let's talk about the character of the piece. This is about grade 4 standard for ABRSM. The character of the piece is what mood does it create. Now someone already mentioned something above. You might want to repeat that. Calm. Magdalena is saying it's calm. Good. And Classics, oh, a lullaby. Now, what features of the music give it its character? Because it's a two-part question in the ABRSM exams. It's not just saying describe the character, but it asks you what features of this piece give the piece its character. Okay, now, lilting. Now there's a good word, lilting. I wouldn't call it a waltz as such, because waltz would be back into that 3/4 time, yeah? But the 6/8 time signature does give it a lilting character, which gives it a very nice lullaby sort of character. So that's a perfect answer. The 6/8 time signature gives it a lilting lullaby sort of character. That would be a perfect answer in ABRSM exam. Okay, also the slow tempo. Another good answer there from Magdalena. And yeah, the dynamic level. All right. And also we mentioned about being legato. All right, so all these different little things add to the character of the music. And in your exam, if you've got some ideas in your head before of the different types of character, you could have something like this, calm and just gentle rocking type pieces, or you could have something much more march-like and lively, or something that's quite sad and sinister, and just think of some set answers almost, so you've got some little backup in the exams of what you could say. For example, fast tempo and staccato notes give a piece a lively character, or a minor key and a slow tempo give a piece a sad character. And have a few of these in your mind even before you go to the exam, before you've even heard the piece, so that you won't be caught out by thinking, now, well, how can I describe this? You'll have some set answers already in your mind. Okay, so that's great. Let's read a couple more of your answers before we move on. Lucy Wells saying relaxed, calm character because of the legato and slow tempo and quiet. Perfect, exactly as we were saying. So, there we go. Now, what period of music? Now, we had a few options at the beginning of this live stream. The period of music could be from the Baroque, classical, romantic, or contemporary. I'd like to call it contemporary rather than 20th century, because now we're in the 21st century and I don't think they're going to differentiate between 20th and 21st. So let's call it contemporary music, okay? Now, classics is offering us classical or romantic, okay? So if you could narrow yourself down to one option and give a reason why. Romantic you're going for, okay. What would be your reason for that? And if anyone else wants to add a comment there, what would be the reason for describing it as either romantic or another period of music? This is a grade 5 type ABRSM question. And does anyone have any musical features that would give you your answer? Right, now Magdalena, romantic, legato, rubato, dynamic range and expressive. Those are all good reasons for the romantic period. Pedal is used more extensively, as Classics 1, 2, 3, 4 is saying, in the romantic period, but not exclusively. You do get pedal in the classical period, very rarely in Baroque, and that was only by certain performers. True traditional style of Baroque playing wouldn't use pedal at all. So that one excludes the Baroque, but it doesn't exclude classical just because there's a little bit of pedal. Mozart and Beethoven even mark pedaling in the part occasionally, okay? Now, rubato. Rubato is a very extensive pulling around of the time, okay? Just because there's a slowing down at the end of a phrase or the end of the piece even, doesn't necessarily mean rubato in the romantic sense. And I would say the dynamic range could be a lot wider. Now, you're giving all excellent ideas and reasons for romantic period, but would you say the dynamic range wasn't that wide? Because I think in the romantic period you would be looking for something a lot bigger in range of the dynamics, okay? And also the rubato would be much more extensive. When you say expressive, there is a lot of passion in Mozart, but it doesn't have quite the same depth of intensity as the Romantic period. Okay, now, I like that answer. Okay. Yes, because of the trill, not troll. Would you call that a trill? Okay, we're going to lots of different things and I'm trying to keep up with you all at the moment. So, I'm going to read out Magdalena's answer here. It says, classical because of the clear, simple phrases and simple accompaniment. Now that is a perfect answer, and actually I'll put you out of your misery because it is classical, not romantic. And that's a little decoration. But then if you go to some Chopin, you get a lot of trills. I think last week's or the week before, not last week, the time before last we had an oral training live stream. I played some Chopin Nocturne and that was full of ornaments and trills. So that wouldn't in itself be a reason for the classical. Okay. So, yeah, and the small melodic range. Now there is a good one. Okay. In romantic music, you're going to be using the whole keyboard, okay, from top to bottom. Whereas in the classical, the keyboard is actually physically smaller than the piano that Mozart and Beethoven had access to. So you're not going to be going right out to the edges of the modern piano, okay? There's another little clue. But I think the best answer we had was from Magdalena at the top there, where it says clear, simple phrases, okay, and a simple accompaniment. And this sort of bass line. Okay, that is very typical classical style, okay? The broken chords, yep, that is the word we were looking for. All right, so we've established that the style and the period is classical music. Okay. Now, Magdalena's asking, would you still gain marks if you got the period wrong but described the period you thought it was well? I think if you gave good reasons why you gave that, and those reasons did fit the music that was being played, then yes. But when you said earlier in your first attempt that there was a wide dynamic range, maybe that's a little bit debatable. Was there a wide dynamic range? Not so much. It could be a lot more if you were playing something like Chopin or... yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to... we're going up the grades now, although it's useful for everybody because you're all going to be hopefully doing higher grades in the future, and it's good practice. Okay, so structure. Now the structure is the different sections and how they're put together. Can anyone remember the whole piece? I'm going to play you the piece in its entirety because you can't understand the structure if I play little sections of it. Yeah, I'm going to play the whole piece once more through. Okay, so how is that piece constructed? What sections can you hear? Right, you're saying 5 parts. Anyone want to offer some more ideas? And how do those parts relate to each other, classics 1, 2, 3, 4? Because there are certain parts that seem to be related, almost copies or similar to each other. Lucy Well's going for a ternary structure, so an ABA form, yes? We have an A section and then something that's contrasted in the middle and then returning to the A section. So yeah, that's it, a contrasting middle section. Sapphire, Sapphire, I can't pronounce your name, Sapphire I think, and Lucy, that would be correct. And classics 1, 2, 3, 4, ternary is the absolutely correct answer. Now, in, let me think this, it's grade 7 I do believe we're talking about, and you're all doing very well no matter what grade you're on. What about the texture and how does it change in the different sections? So the A section has a slightly different texture to the B section. Okay, texture refers to, I'd like to think of it as a sandwich, and what layers do you have in that sandwich? You have different voices, maybe like a Magdalena said earlier, what was it, a simple tune with an accompaniment. Okay, now how does the texture change between the A section and the B section? All right, there's a slightly different style in texture. Here's a little bit of the A section. Okay, and here's a bit of the B section. Good. Now, the second section, Nope Yup, is saying, I've just worked out your name. Nope Yup is just a yes and no. The second section is thinner. Okay. Gentle, more, I can't understand your writing. Slow down writing, classics 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we can actually read what you're writing. I can't work out what you're saying there. Dynamic. Okay. I like what Nope Yup was saying about being thinner. And at the beginning of it, how many voices could you hear in the B section, we'll call it? How many voices are there? Yeah, there are 2 voices in the B section. So how would you describe the texture of the A section? I'm looking at your answers. Someone's got to go. Well, nice having you here, and just before you go, Annette, we will be having a break over the Christmas period and be back sometime in January. But you can watch the video later and I'll give you the date at the end of this, this video. Now, Magdalena, thicker, there are more chords. Yeah. But then what is a chord? It's a group of 2 notes or more. So the chords are thicker. Yes. There are more notes. It's fuller. Okay. Now, 4 voices. Interesting. I mean, if you watch really closely, I'm not sure how much of the camera can see my hand. Yes, I quite conveniently obscured my hands, which is what it's like in a real exam, isn't it? You can't see what the examiner is playing, but can you hear? How many voices are there? It's actually the same all the time. Isabel, well done. I think that was your second answer. Yeah, there are 3 voices, so it's a slightly fuller texture, and also that the way the voices are used. Now, I don't think anyone has actually mentioned the words like homophonic and polyphonic and contrapuntal before now in this particular live stream. We've used them many times in our previous live streams. How is the A section described in terms of those words like homophonic and polyphonic? What would you say? because we've got a very responsive audience today. Now, this is a good point. Right, I'm going to define them first because there is a little bit of confusion as to what they mean. Homophonic means sounding as one. So if you have a piece that is literally like that, that is homophonic. There is one sound. All the voices are working together in the same rhythm. Now, polyphonic actually can be also at the same time homophonic. But a lot of people use it to mean the voices working independently of each other. So you have like crossing rhythms, a lot like you get in Baroque music, okay? And it's like a question and an answer sort of form where the voices are absolutely rhythmically independent, weaving in and out of each other. And that is often referred to as polyphonic, but in its strictest sense, the word you should be using there is contrapuntal, counterpoint, where one tune works against another tune. It literally means Latin, okay, point against point, contrapuntal, okay? Polyphonic literally means many sounds. Now, there is not just one sound here. Okay, at the last chord I played, there are actually 4 sounds. So technically that is polyphonic. So to avoid confusion, if you said contrapuntal and homophonic, those two would have no confusion at all. Okay, so I think we are going for homophonic as the answer to the A section. Now, what about the B section? Would you say that's still homophonic, even though the texture is thinner? Or would you say that's counterpoint? Are they independent rhythmically? Because someone earlier mentioned these as being broken chords. Yeah. So, is a broken chord a separate identity, a separate voice that's rhythmically completely independent from the tune? Or is it just basically and then if you just break up the chord, I wouldn't necessarily call this an independent voice. It's just like an accompaniment, which is a chord. It's a chordal accompaniment, even though the chords are broken. So it's still homophonic, really. Okay? Right, now let's move on to sight singing. You can probably be thinking, how can we sight sing with interactive chat through YouTube? Well, we're not going to do it exactly like you would in an exam. That would be impossible because I can't hear you sing. But we can do reverse sight singing. And those of you who have been on previous live streams know what we're going to do. It's like intervals, yeah. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make sure you can't see my hands because that would be cheating. I'm going to play a few notes from the piece. Now, hang on, let me just check the camera and see what you can see so that you can't be, yeah, it's probably best to hide my hands. You can just about see. Right, so the key of this piece is A major. There's a key chord of A major, and there is a tonic of A major. All right? Now, instead of sight singing, I want you to name the notes that I play. I'm going to play you the first couple of bars, and we're just going to work out what the notes are. And if you can hear what the note names are and recognize them, it's just like doing sight singing in reverse, okay? So, there is that key note again, key chord. What is this first note? Someone's saying a B, right? Here is an A again, and here is, right, now, Okay, it is a C of sorts. If we're in A major, if you could actually, yes, very good, classics, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's a C sharp. Okay, remember the key signature of A major has 3 sharps. Anyone want to tell me what the other sharps are for an A major key signature? This is all good for your sight reading and everything else. We have C sharp, and the other 2 sharps are F and G. Okay, so bear those in mind when you give your answers. Now, I'm going to carry on for the rest of the first bar. So we're starting on a C sharp. I played 5 notes. The first one is C sharp. Can anyone give me the rest of the notes in that bar? Just write them out as a list of 5 notes. Okay. Right, we've got C, D, C, E, E. Now, I'm assuming you're meaning C sharps. Yeah, okay, you just corrected yourself. And that is absolutely correct. C sharp up to D and back again to the C sharp, and then a couple of E's at the end. Well done. Right, I'm going to play those again, and then go on to the next bar. Right, can anyone say what the notes in the second bar are? I'll just play the second bar on its own now. Okay, B, C, you mean C sharp, but then not D. It's getting confusing, isn't it? Here's the first bar, C sharp, D, C sharp, E. Now, B, C sharp, B, D, D. Nope, yup, got it right first. So the prize goes to Nope, yup. And I'm going to play one more note to finish the phrase. First one with the answer gets the prize. It is a sequence. Well done, Classics 1, 2, 3, 4 gets the prize for the first answer. And Isabel in a very close second, and everyone else is coming in now. Now, unfortunately, sometimes people have faster internet connections than others, or some people can just type faster. And that's not musical knowledge, but well done for all of you who said it was an A. Okay, My Piano Favorites has just joined. Please don't go back to the beginning, otherwise you won't be able to participate, but you can go and listen to it, Piano Favorites, from the beginning when this live stream is finished, which we're getting, another 10 minutes I would think, before we actually come to a close, because we still have modulations and cadences to do, which is the higher grades, 7 and 8 really, but if you're in a lower grade, don't leave us, because one day, hopefully you will be going on to grades 7 and 8. Okay, so, and yes, sorry, I'm saying the grades for ABRSM, but in Trinity, they bring the harmony things a little bit lower in the grades than they do in ABRSM, but then in Trinity you don't have to do any singing, which is possibly an easier option. I don't know. Most my students that do ABRSM always complain that the hardest part is the singing part. So, okay, so in a sense, now you're asking about doing intervals. In a way, what we just did is a form of interval, isn't it? So from there to there, those are both seconds up and down, and then a third up to the E. Okay, so it's just another version of the same test. I'm not going to go through intervals specifically as a separate question because we sort of just done it. Anyway, now, modulation. I'm actually going to play the third line slightly different. No, I'm not. That's for the next question. I'm going to play it as it is. And I want you to tell me what the modulation is at the points where I stop. Now, your options are modulations to the dominant, subdominant, or relative major or minor. Okay? See if you can work it out. Slightly change the last chord. What would that modulation be? a modulation to the dominant, subdominant, or relative major or minor. And nope, yup is correct by saying dominant. Yeah, now, how do we know that it's a modulation to the dominant? A modulation to the dominant means raising one of the notes by a semitone. There's a lifting feel to the harmony. Even though sometimes the melody might go down, you can feel the harmony lifting. Now, if I play these two bars here, I'll do it again. I played that without the modulation. I'm trying to do it different to what I'm reading and then it's putting me off. I'll do it again. Last two chords, but what's written, can you hear that this chord went up to, from there, there's a slight raising of one of the notes by a semitone, and that's how you can tell a modulation to the dominant, and the whole music has a sort of lifting feel to it. Now, okay, and then I just look back at my chat screen and everyone else is joining in with a dominant as well. So all those that said dominant are correct. And we still have 12 of you watching. Well done. I'm not sure if you're all doing the higher grades, but as I said, it's going to be useful for everyone in the future. Now, cadences and bass lines and the chords that make up a cadence. This is also in Trinity as well. So I'm going to play you a little bit from the end, and I'm going to pause at one point, and I'd like you to first of all just tell me what the cadence is. Okay, now the cadences can be perfect cadence, imperfect cadence, interrupted cadence, or plagal cadence. And for this one I am going to change again what is written in the actual original. Okay, I'm going to do that again for you. Play it twice. Now, interrupted, yes, because of the minor chord. Classics, you really need to work at your spelling. You're providing us all very much entertainment, but anyway. There we go. Now, a minor chord, that's the easy way to recognise the interrupted cadence. Now, in grade 8, I think it's grade 7 as well, you have to identify the chords that are used. But before you do that, let's just try and identify the bass notes. So I'm going to give you your tonic triad. Okay? Now, what is the bass note? This is A major again, okay? So what bass note is this chord? I don't think you can actually see now down the bottom. No, you can't. The two bass notes down there. Well, if you know what the chords are, Lucy, just tell me what the bass notes are. Because part of the grade 8 test, which I can't also test on a live stream, is that you have to sing the bass line, okay, in grade 8. So once again, if you can name the notes, you could probably be able to sing them. So, bass notes are E and A. That's 1 out of 2. An interrupted cadence. E and F sharp. Correct, Sapphire. Okay. And then we worked out that it was an interrupted cadence. Good. Chords 5 to 6. Now let's go to the end of this piece. Just the last 2 bars. Okay. Well, first of all, what is the cadence at the very end of the piece? It's a perfico. You're spelling again. Perfect, Isabel, yes. But classics, you did have the right answer. Okay, and it's chords 5 to 1. Well, is it? Karine saying perfect, and Classics 1 saying perfect. Now, there is a slight option, 5 to 1, yeah. Let's work out the bass notes first, which you could probably do from your theory knowledge without even hearing them. But again, we are in A major, and then here are the last two chords. So what are the notes, first of all, just for our singing type of, the singing part of the grade 8 question. What notes are used in the bass line for the last chords? E to A, correct, Lucy. Okay, now you are sort of correct when you say 5 to 1 because E is the 5th note of the scale and A is the 1st note of the scale, so it is 5 to 1. Okay, so you're confused because I'm saying it's not 5 to 1. Right, I'm going to play you 5 to 1. Now I'm going to play you what was actually in the part. There's a very subtle difference. Alright, there was a leaning note and a appoggiatura which I've left out to make it slightly easier. I'm not doing the extra melody note that sort of gets in the way of the harmony a bit. So I'm just using the harmony notes. This is 5 to 1. And this is what's actually written. Very good, Lucy. It's 5/7, dominant 7th. The dominant 7th has an extra richness to it. So here is the dominant, and here's the dominant 7th. That extra note there gives it a little bit of extra richness. Yeah? And then 1. So, that's basically covered almost any possible question you might get in an ABRSM exam. I hope you found it useful. I'm really grateful to you all for your participation today. What's my piano favourite saying? The bass line sounds stronger in perfect group position. 5/7 is richer. Yeah, it is absolutely right. It's a much richer sound, that 5/7. Okay, now, as I said before, we are going to have a little bit of a break, mainly because most people aren't really thinking about their exams so much over the Christmas holidays. And then it all starts to get frenzied again back in January. So we are going to have our next live stream on the 13th of January. That's the first Sunday in the new term, okay? And it'll be at the same time as today, 2 p.m. That is UK time. I thank you all for being very good participants today. And Lucy, I'm glad you're feeling more confident because that's what this is all about. I'm trying to build your confidence, and as you practice this, you realise that, you know, you just keep on doing these tests and they start to become, okay, yeah, I know how to do that. And it's not such a daunting task. What most people do before their ABRSM and Trinity exams is they just sort of, okay, let's think about Aural a week before the exam, and then they sort of start panicking. But if you do a little bit a day, or every week, even with a training session like this, it's not such a scary prospect. So do join us again on the 13th of January at 2 p.m. British time. Thank you again for all your participation, and I will see you all soon. I'm just finding the button to close down this, and see you soon.